Hello everyone and welcome back to another One Piece Chris video. Today I'm going to tell you if you should pull or not on the new treasure map sugo-fest. And you might be wondering, what is this? Why am I showing you Luffy and Luffy versus Kaido's banner? Now, many people don't know, but One Piece Day is in less than a month. Last year, we got Luffy versus Kaido, the Momonosuke and the Oira and Yamato. Both the Oira and Yamato and the Luffy versus Kaido are both still used quite commonly today, and the events that surrounded this One Piece Day are very eventful. We have Blitz Battle, we had our first ever super treasure map. We also got a special illustration from Oda himself to celebrate our 10th anniversary, but that's kind of something else. We do have the super treasure map here. This is the first one ever. If it ever is going to return and have a second super treasure map, it's probably going to be next month. But just generally, it's a 3 times legendary sugo-fest. It's going to be just as good as anniversary. We're going to have a special grand party where you only need to get 12 wins. I can guarantee this. We're going to have Blitz Battle. It's just going to be a very gem intensive time of the game. And I'm not going to say here and end off saying you just shouldn't pull for the treasure map sugo-fest because One Piece Day is next month, because I know some people do go hard in treasure map. They want to get the boosters, so I'm still going to tell you guys which part to pull on if you are going to be doing a few multis. But generally, I would say that you want to just have this in your head. Just think about One Piece Day, which is on the 10th of August in less than a month. And this is going to be a massive Super Sugo-fest where you can get all the new characters, a bunch of all the most exclusive characters in the game, and it's going to be a 3 times legendary Sugo-fest. So I'm very excited to see which characters they actually use, because there's not really many characters that they can do right now, because they've already used up all the God Valley characters. Everything big that's happening in Egghead right now, they've already used up for the anniversary. So really interested to see what happens. We're probably going to get one of these tertiary legends like Oira and Yamato, who isn't related to the story at the moment, but is just kind of a special waifu character. Of course, the steps are also going to be really good. There's probably going to be Orid multis, free multis. You're going to be getting gems out of the wazoo. So even if you do have like no gems going into the One Piece Day, you're going to be able to get quite a lot. I'm guessing we're going to have social media events, login campaigns, etc. So I wouldn't suggest pulling on the treasure map sugo-fest. Doing the discount multis though, I do think you can find some value from that. So let's just see what does the treasure map sugo-fest have to offer. So if we go to the notice here, the treasure map sugo-fest is starting tomorrow, and I have looked over what the treasure map does, and I would have to say that you really don't need the new characters. Having a friend Captain Ace for the final boss essentially allows you to get through everything. For the intrusion, they kind of want you to use the new treasure map rare recruits, but there are ways around it. You have the Marco rare recruit. He removes threshold on the enemy and reduces your own special bind. But there are so many options to get around the special bind. The best example being the 6+ Sabo and Koala. And then for the threshold, there's many different options. There's like 4 treasure map legends that reduce threshold, such as Nami and Karina, or the treasure map Memories of Straw Hat's Frankie. So you really don't need the new Marco. As for the Teach, he's a bit harder to replace. I think the best option to replace him would be Nami and Karina. The only reason I say that is because you do need some weird type of orb manipulation. The enemy makes your slots weak besides recovery orbs, because Teach is going to change your orbs into recovery, so they of course want you to use him. But in the list of orbs that are made weak by the enemy, G orbs are not there. So you could use Nami and Karina's super swap effect or just regular swap effect to give your adjacent characters block orbs turn into G orbs, and make those count as 2.25x damage, because G orbs, as you know, are going to be a 1.5x damage increasing effect, but Nami and Karina increases that to be a pretty good value of 2.25x, better than regular matching orbs. So there is an option to get around Teach as well. Teach also removes attack down, but once again, Nami and Karina also removes attack down. Then there's also a special rewind, which they want you to use Teach's crewmate ability to get around 2 turns of special rewind. But once again, Nami and Karina, 2 turns of cooldown in Karina's form. It allows you to get around that pretty nicely. So you really don't need these guys. And as I said, Ace as a friend captain will suffice. In terms of which characters are giving you the different card effects for the C chart cards. So Ace is going to increase your chance of getting the mini boss killing C chart cards by 100%. And also increase the multiplier of the points you get from those cards. Then for Blackbeard, he's going to increase your chance of the... No, wait. Ace is going to increase your chance of the navigation cards that allow you to guarantee moving certain amounts of spots on the map. And then Teach is going to increase your chance of the mini boss C chart cards to 100%. And then Marco will increase your chance of navigation level increase cards to 100%. So overall, I'd say Marco is the best one here. Especially if you are trying to get a very high rank. Getting to a higher nav levels guaranteed with these cards is a massive help. It is needed to get top 100, I'd say. In terms of the Ace, I honestly think his one is the least important for ranking. But of course, he's going to be the highest point booster. So in terms of getting a high rank, he's also going to be quite necessary. Teach, I'd say, is the least necessary one. But it's still better. His card effect is better than Ace's. Because you can go without having a guaranteed moving positions like +3, +5. You don't really need that to rank really high. But having the ability to just skip mini bosses and skip or increase navs through skipping navs with Marco is so helpful. So having the 2 rare recruits are quite important for higher ranking. Marco, as I said before, is probably the better one. But if you take a look at which character is just better on paper, I'd say Teach is a better unit just because of his amazing crewmate ability to reduce special rewind by 2 turns for your all Whitebeard pirate tagged units. This is just one of the best crewmate abilities in the game, and his support ability is also really helpful. And his special is also really nice. Of course, the weaken status doesn't go through immunity. If it did, then this character would be just perfect, bro. His cooldown isn't too bad either, being at 13 turns. Marco is also 13. Unfortunately, the Ace is a very high cooldown of 16 turns if you don't have him expanded. But I talked about it in the previous video when I discussed this batch. So check that out if you want to get more details about how good these characters are. But let's take a look at all 3 different parts. So of course, it's separated by 24 hours each. Part 1 starts tomorrow, part 2 in 2 days, and then part 3 in 3 days. Now, the different characters are rated up for each day. So on part 2, you have a higher chance of getting Teach. Part 3, Marco. And then part 1, you have the best chance of getting all 3 of the new characters. Even though there are 30 legends available on part 1, Ace is rate boosted, and I assume he has a higher chance than on part 2 and 3. So, taking a look at the steps, there is of course the discount multi, then the 2nd and 3rd step are going to be trash, and then the 4th step is the furthest you probably will go to get a new character, which is one of the new boosters. In terms of the units available, so part 1 is quite interesting in the fact that if you get a legend, it's very likely going to be a treasure map legend, because every single treasure map legend is available on part 1. From Sanji, yes, Germa Sanji, all the way up until the new Ace. Now, in terms of the characters available, part 1, Stassi is an insane asset. Just having Stassi rate boosted increases the value of part 1 tremendously. Ryokyugyu, Green Bull, whatever you want to call him, he is pretty much trash. I pulled this character on his debut and I never used him after the treasure map. This character is really not that great at all. You do have other characters like the Cross Guild Buggy, Karasu Mole, V2 Kobe. A lot of good characters here. Of course, Nami and Karina. If you don't have Nami and Karina, part 1 is also really good for you because she's not available elsewhere. And then on part 2 and 3, there's only 3 treasure map legends available, including Ace. So in terms of if you don't have a lot of treasure map legends, then I would say part 1 is 100% where you want to pull. We don't have the exact rates yet, but going by how Bandai was this, I'm assuming that part 1 Ace has the highest rate, even though it's a whole 30 legends available. But I'd say we also have Christmas Uta here, bro. It's just so good. This banner on part 1 is really good for having Stasi, all the treasure map characters, and also Uta. Yeah, I'd say if you do have a lot of these characters, part 2 is a bit better than part 3 in my opinion. Even though Teach is rate boosted, I'm pretty sure, instead of Marco. And as I said, Marco has a better C chart card rate boost up with the navigation level card. Part 2 with Teach, this part has so many good characters. It's even for dupes, bro. You have Usopp and Lilith, a trademark of the shooter team. We have Cross Guild Buggy, who's great for strength team. I think also for shooter team, I'm not too sure. And then Kobe there, who's also used in Rumble on side teams. Not so good in Rumble anymore, but he's also a pretty good character in general. We also have the I forgot their name, the sword unit. This character is also used on shooter teams, a bit of a hit or miss sometimes, but still a great character. We also have Douglas Bullet, who has great level limit break, so if you want dupes of him, then this is also a great opportunity. He doesn't really appear too much, but overall I'd say the legends on part 2 are a bit better than part 3. Part 3 we do have some decent characters here. The Nami and Sanji, I recently used this legend, and they have some interesting effects, but I wouldn't say they are the most desirable character. Karasu and Morley, I think this character is not bad, but he's not amazing either. He's a great asset if you don't have him, but the Frankie, I'd say, is very much usable in this treasure map actually, because we do get a mini boss that blows away our characters. It's a very annoying debuff since most units don't negate it. Frankie is one of those who actually do with his captain ability. So having him is great if you want to build for one of the mini bosses, but there are ways around it. Personally, I'm just going to use Toki's effect to ignore the blow away, but you could also use like captain actions and stuff. So I wouldn't say pull just for the Frankie, but once again it comes down just to what units are you missing. But just in terms of the quality of the legends, I'd say part 2 is much better. Part 1, if you are a newer player and you don't have a lot of these treasure map legends, especially characters like Nami and Karina, even the character Nami is really good. I've used them a lot, especially in like co-op. Character Wonder, excellent. We have the 6+ of Crocodile. Who else here? I've used the Bathhouse Luffy a bit, but honestly he's not the best character. Great support ability though. As I said before, we have the Cross Guild and the Karasu and Morley. So if you're missing both of those characters, then don't go in part 2 or 3, just go in part 1 because they are there. Once again, we do have Christmas Uta, great character. So I would say each part has its own benefit. Part 1 is just because it has all the treasure map legends and the quality of the characters are really good. Having Stasi rate boosted and Uta available is really nice. And of course, I'd say if you just want the most boosters possible, then go in on part 1, get all the dupes you can for treasure map legends, get their level limit break up, get any ones that you are missing. But if you just want the most valuable character for this treasure map, go on part 3 because Marco is a great unit. And then in part 2, you want to get if you want to get these characters like Usopp and Lilith, the sword unit, Cross Guild Buggy, who are going to be great assets to your shooter team in Rumble. Teach, as I said, is also a really good character just in general, not just this treasure map. So I think part 2 honestly has the most value, but part 3 has the best treasure map rare recruit for this treasure map in particular. As I said before, the navigation C cards are very important if you want to actually rank very high, but the legends available aren't the best. Part 1 or 2 I think is where you should go. Do the discount multi on both of those parts and then dup. That's what I'd say. But as I said, it just really depends on what you want. If you are trying to rank high, part 3. If you are trying to just get the most valuable characters for your shooter team, maybe get duplicates for those units, part 2. If you want a lot of new characters and are a fairly new player, part 1. It just really depends, bro. But I'd say, personally, I'm probably going to do a multi on part 1, just to get the highest chance of getting one of the new characters. But it's really up to you. As I said, situational. For most people, I'd say that part 1 is the best to do one multi, and maybe on part 2. Even though Marco's good, his part just isn't the best, so I would just skip it if I'm being honest. But yeah, a lot of information there, so thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace, and I'm out.